I am speaking today with Mr. Volodymyr Landa. He's a Ukrainian economist, expert, and deputy editor-in-chief of Forbes Ukraine. Mr. Landa, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Adrian.
The first subject that I'd like to talk about is the recent events surrounding the Druzhba pipeline. Ukraine has recently struck the pipeline. And the first question is why now? And what do you think will be the economic and political consequences for Russia, and especially for its EU partners, Hungary and Slovakia?
Let us remind the main goal of Ukraine. And the main goal of Ukraine is to end this war on best possible realistic conditions. And other goals of Ukraine are sub-goals of this main goal. So one of these goals to not to let Russia to have any money to hold this aggressive terroristic war. So we understand that most Russian money is getting from selling oil and gas. And even if you have seen a Russian budget fewer to 5 lines to 7 lines, even in that case, there is a line oil and gas profits and not oil and gas revenues. So that's the key source of Russian money, and Ukraine is interested that Russia do not receive this money in any way. For sure, the best case scenario is the worldwide consensus that nobody buys Russian oil and gas, such like we have like some examples. For example, in diamonds industry, everyone agrees that there is a regime. We do not buy diamonds from this regime, but there is no such consensus for Russia. Even if all European Union agrees not to buy oil and gas, that's not enough because India and China remain key clients outside European Union. Not only outside European Union, but in general as well. So Ukraine is interested in stopping exporting Russian oil and gas in any way, both in economic way and military way. And economic way includes not only refusal of buying oil and gas, but also secondary sanctions provided with, from the side of the United States of America. We cannot see at the moment if these sanctions will be enough. So as I know that the governments of India, China are calculating if what will be the best strategy in such new conditions, given the fact these conditions may change in a week or in a month. So we understand that's not stable, but in case then Russia still exporting these goods, Ukraine has some other ways to stop these exports.
You've mentioned India before, and last week, President Donald Trump announced that those secondary tariffs of 50% against India purchasing Russian oil have gone into effect. Do you think this is enough? Should India face even steeper tariffs than this?
That's not. I have no final idea at this point. As I know, Indian government is calculating their risks, revenues, and it looks like even 50% tariff is not enough. Maybe tariff policy as a whole is not enough. Maybe we need some other political or other limitations for countries buying Russian oil. But I don't think India expects these sanctions to live in a long run. I believe they are trying to stay for the short-term period, hoping that the war will end, and after the war, tariffs will be changed.
Prime Minister Viktor Orban of Hungary has already protested to President Trump and threatened consequences for the attacking of Druzhba. Do you believe this pressure will matter You think Donald Trump will do something?
But that's pretty interesting when Orban is trying to pressure on Donald Trump. I don't believe this could be successful. And let me emphasize that Hungary and Slovakia are mentioning that energy resources of Russia are critical for these countries. But you can see for other European countries, which are also critically dependent on foreign oil and gas, but do not have any political obligations to Mr. Putin. I mean, for example, Germany or Austria. Austria has less than 10% of own resources, so they needed just resources and nothing else. And if the problem is like so, this problem is solved pretty fast. So Austria had solution, Germany has its solution, and these countries can have some additional compensation from European authorities. For example, that's not a lot of money. That's not tens of millions. That's probably hundreds of millions euros. If just opponent feels to say that we need to compensate such money, I believe that European Union, European Commission will do such a decision. But we understand that that's not a real reason for the way Slovakia and Hungary do their foreign politics. Hungary also have another imaginary problem with Ukraine, like rights of Hungarian minority. As for my belief, Hungarian minority has one of the biggest rights out of all Ukrainian minorities. So you cannot all see often, for example, foreign flags in state authorities in Kiev, except probably European Union flag. But Hungarian flag is somewhere in some territorial armadas in Ukraine. So and the last point is that Orban and Sijarto has banned the entry to Ukrainian soldier of Hungarian origin. So Hungary is banning Hungarians from entering Hungary due to defending Ukraine from Russia. That's pretty strange, and that hardly corresponds with defending Hungarian people in Ukraine. So, in fact, Orban is contradicting Hungarian people in Ukraine. So, and this, you know who I'm talking about, that's Robert Brody, with the nickname Magyar, who reacted on that and said that he will visit his father's fatherland after Orban regime.
Other than the attack on Druzhba, do you think there's something else Ukraine can realistically do to keep the economic pressure on Hungary and Slovakia? We know they've multiple times tried to block sanctions on Russia. They are portraying themselves outwardly as opponents of Ukraine, especially in terms of the European integration. So is there something more that Ukraine can do, maybe politically, other than attacking Druzhba?
Yes, political way is the preferable. Attacking Druzhba is the result of fallen attempts to block this export in a political way. In fact, everyone is interested that this export just stopped without any other further actions. In fact, Ukraine is in situation. Ukraine has 7 geographical neighbors, and the situation is worsening with these neighbors. One of them is attacking us right now. Second one is a quasi-country is currently eaten by Russia. Now we have 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 opposite countries in the western border: Slovakia, Hungary, and since August, Poland, with the new Polish president, with new anti-Ukrainian initiatives. So we have only 2 countries still supporting Ukraine, and this is still fully supporting Ukraine, because even Hungary gives some benefits for Ukrainian refugees and so on. But full support we have just from 2 countries, namely Romania and Moldova, which are in the similar situation, because both countries had strong pro-Russian tensions, and Romania is blocked with absolutely fantastic measures, which could be a good example for every country, because everyone understands that Russia could hack any democratic mechanism. If for you the main thing is elections, we will do elections like we want. If for you the main thing is church, we'll do churches like which will produce any content we want, and so on and so on. And all our FSB will say they are journalists, churches, and whatever you want. And the same thing is for Moldova. They have, as you know, they have elections in several weeks, and they do also fantastic job to prevent Russian political invasion into Moldova, because that's the question of European future for this country. So we had not a lot of Romanian friends in our region, and also we need to cooperate with current leaders of Western neighboring countries. They are in different situation. We know that in Slovakia and Hungary, the leading parties are opposition parties. And if it's in Slovakia, the elections will be held in 2 years. In Hungary, that's several months left, and Orban party could lose these elections. So if you come to Hungary and see what is going on outdoor political agitation, you will have an impression that one of the biggest public figures in Hungarian policy is Volodymyr Zelensky. He is on billboards, he is stating something, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty strange, and Orban cannot exclude Zelensky from his political agenda. He wants to have some enemies, and Zelensky is one of his enemies, named enemies, who did not do anything bad against Hungary. And I believe if Hungarian cabinet changes, we will notice that there is no tensions between the people of Ukraine and Hungary, as well as Ukraine and Slovakia. If you're Ukrainian and coming to Budapest or Bratislava, you will see no tension, no contradiction, and so on. That's only opposition to regimes.
Let's switch a bit. Let's go to another topic. I'd like to talk a bit about the minerals accord that Ukraine did with the United States back in May, I think. How does the deal fare right now? We haven't really heard much about it since then. We know it has yet to be ratified by the US Congress. And tell me about it. How it is going on right now with
I have the same impression as you do. We do not see any progress with that. Let me remind a bit of history. Previous drafts of this minerals agreement were absolutely catastrophic for Ukraine. When Minister Besant came to Ukraine with a document and said you have 2 hours to sign it, and I'll go with your signature to Mr. Trump, that was absolutely unacceptable. That was like agreement. You give me all your resources, and instead I give you nothing. That's pretty strange agreement. And however, that was a second version of this agreement, third draft, fourth draft, and all of them very bad for Ukraine. And finally, in April, we had some realistic contract, which gave almost the same rights for both parties. And that's not so framework, but advanced framework type of document, which means if and when we create this fund, these are the principles how we deal with the future incomes. And however, we understand that that's not the story of the next month or even next year, because the fund not yet created. No, any officials are in this fund. So even if this fund is established, it takes years to make new mines, to make new facilities. And we understand that investments are very limited during wartime, and especially it's limited in mining. For example, if you want to have a cafe, you may have in Lviv. You will have investments. You will have cafe in 2 months, and it could make profit. But not the same with mining, because you invest and you understand that you will not receive any revenues, for example, for 5 years, and any profits for like 10 to 15 years. That's very long-term investment. And the main preconditions for such investment is long-lasting and just peace. Ceasefire is not enough to run investments in the mining. So first, what we signed with the United States, that the best possible options. We did not give up all our mineral resources for nothing. We just agreed that if we have a future fund, we will have 50-50 fund and this fund covers only not existing facilities but future facilities. So profits of this fund, this is a question of at least year 2030 and later. As I mentioned before, we do not have any movements, including any movements with the new Ukrainian government. So that's the question which is not on the table. However, it could be back to table when the first big investor, for example, from United States, wants to have some new mine in Ukraine. Ukraine has a lot of mineral resources. I was calculating it for Forbes Ukraine 3 years ago. At that time, it was about $15 trillion. That's somewhere in top 20 in global measurements. However, 15 trillion means that's all resources, feasible to mine, not feasible to mine, existing mines, future mines, and so on. And the main important point is this includes also occupied areas. And out of 15 trillion, 7 trillion are situated on Donetsk and Luhansk Oblast, and also about 1 trillion in other occupied regions. So we can talk less than about a half of this volume. And other point is that 2/3 of this global volume in money values are coal and iron ore, which are not very interesting for Donald Trump. If he's interested in rare earths, like it was in previous times, Ukraine has almost no rare earth materials. We had less than 1% of world share and no existing mines. We have some lithium mines and not mines, but lithium deposits, and some titanium mines and deposits. By the way, large Ukrainian state-owned titanium company was sold, privatized during the full-scale invasion in 2024 at the price of about $100 million. Not very huge deal, but in the wartime, that's a good amount of money. So I believe that the point of interest could be first of all, titanium, lithium, maybe some graphite, and also Ukraine has oil and gas as well. But that's other volumes. We are not already speaking about trillions of dollars, but it could be dozens to hundreds of billions.
You've talked about the occupied territories, and you've basically predicted my next question, because I was going to ask about, we know that many of these deposits lie under Russian control right now. It's obviously a very complicated picture because of this. And do you think the United States will have the interest and the drive to push Russia towards, I don't know, a peace agreement that will not violate Ukrainian territorial integrity because of their interests that lie in this mineral deal?
I don't think U.S. is critically interested in those resources of Donbass, because I didn't hear that they were interested in coal or iron ore. There is a lot of cheap alternatives. By the way, even when let me go a bit deeper into Ukrainian iron steel industry. We have some additional problems with the iron and steel manufacturing, because for this process we need coal, which were used from Pokrovskaya mine near the city of Pokrovsk. And this mine was occupied in late 2024. And so Metinvest company, who owns this mine, had to export coal from different countries, including United States of America. So main route is the coal from Poland, but also from these sources. And I don't think that America critically needs these resources on occupied areas. However, one of Russian goals is to share its crime with everyone possible. For example, Russia is very good in sharing its terroristic crime with their own citizens. Even if you are not a soldier, you can have some sign that you are supporting military operation. You, for example, your child is making like drawing to support military operation and so on. You are signing some letters if you are a well-known person and so on. And that's the same thing Russia wants to do with countries. So they are interested in that other countries somehow legitimate Russian occupation. And for example, Russia may offer something very good in economical terms in cooperation with the United States, having 1% of them on occupied territories. So US had to legitimate this occupation. That's the way Russia will do, and the task for Ukraine and for European Union is to prevent any other countries to legitimate this occupation in any way, especially before we will have some peace agreement, which will probably provide some specific status, because I cannot see realistic ways on how Russia or Ukraine says that these territories go out from our constitution. I cannot imagine. Even not only Ukraine, but also Russia, which just signed it into constitution. Maybe that's a decision for future governments, if in the case Russia will be a democratic country, but I have no such belief, because in Russian history, Russia had several attempts to become a democratic country and failed every time. Last one is in 1990s, and Russians think that that's the period of poverty, and in their minds, poverty is linked with previous I think was in 17th century, so it should be to be a good historian to remind this process. And Russia also often refers to some historical points, but let me also refer to one historical point that Russia saying about some Rurik, about something happening in 9th, 10th century and so on. However, Russia, in fact, was invaded by Peter the First, or how do I say, Peter the Great, by taking name Rus from Kievan Rus, by taking a flag from the Netherlands, by taking national emblem from Golden Horde, and by changing some traditions, because Peter the First understood very good that Russia is not in European culture, very far from European culture. In fact, Russia remains far from European culture until now.
Let's remain on the topic of the occupied territories, but shift a little bit on the main topic. I'd like to talk about the reconstruction of Ukraine and post-war Ukraine. What do you think are the scenarios for the reconstruction of Ukraine after the war, especially in regards to the occupied territories? Because you've talked before about how neither Ukraine nor Russia can actually afford politically to just give up on these territories, Ukraine more so than Russia, because Russia is the invader. So what do you think can happen in regards to the reconstruction of Ukraine if the front line freezes? Let's say that's the level of peace you can get at this point, just de facto control of the occupied territories by Russia, part of the occupied territories.
Well, first of all, we had a very good estimation. You may have seen RDNA4. Did you see that?
The what?
RDNA4, Rapid Damage and Need Assessment. It is made by, that's a very important document. All needs is evaluated by sector, by region, so on. Current needs in recovery in next 10 years after war stops exceeded $500 billion. This includes direct losses, which are 3 times less, and principal Build Back Better reconstruction needs, and this is $500+ billion in next 10 years. And this stipulates that these investments, a lot of these investments will be foreign investments, and a lot of them will be of private capital. And I believe that Ukraine will be a very, very interesting for investors in that period, because now risks are pretty large. However, you can do business cheaper if you take risk. For example, if you are 100% owner and you are not located in frontline regions, when you have some sites, production sites on Western Ukraine in relatively safe locations or underneath, for example. So risks are still higher than in European countries, other European countries, but the price could be 2 or 3 times lower for the same business. The probability of hitting your plant when you are doing not military production is significantly less than 50%, and price is 50% less. So currently, the business is good only for investors who can take these risks. If you have to negotiate with board of directors, some of them will not approve probably this investment. But after war ends, we will need a lot of work to do. We will not have enough people. We will lack human capital. In fact, lack of human capital is the second largest problem in Ukraine against war, according to business surveys. And this problem are linked because there is not very transparent system of preventing personnel from military mobilization. Despite the fact Ukraine has very good digital systems. If you somehow come to Ukraine, just have a telephone from a random people, and there is a DIA attachment in the phone, in which you can do everything. A lot of state services, including buying sovereign bonds. You can do it in your phone in a governmental application. And voting for Eurovision jury in Ukraine. So the state has a lot of information about people. For example, age, salaries, tax paid, health condition, military education, and so on. And this is not used to select the best people for the army. People for army despite all that, and that's a big problem, and business understands it. And also when the war ends, we will lack not only just workers, but also we will lack PMs. So we do not have 1 million of managers for all these projects we need to do. I know that Ukraine even started communicating with Asian countries to enter some workforce, because Ukraine is losing about 500,000 people on a year, and most of them are not even migration and not even that at war, but natural change. Of these 500,000 to 600,000 people, about 300,000 to 400,000 is natural change, because every year we have about 170,000 newborn and about 500,000 dead. So that's 3 times more, and that's a very big demographic problem in Ukraine. And we will react to this to attracting a foreign workforce to Ukraine. However, not all people in Ukraine, not all even politicians are ready for such a move. But as for me, it's inevitable.
I have a compounded question for you. There are more questions in one. How can Romania help the reconstruction effort of Ukraine, and what are you expecting that the decision makers in Bucharest will do to help? And are you looking for a specific kind of investment from Romania after the war?
Oh, well, first of all, as I said earlier, Romania remains one of the biggest friends of Ukraine, which are situated near our border. The second point is that please look investment possibilities which are right now. As a rule, current M&A deals in Ukraine, they are not very large, but they're in these sectors which could do recovery in the next future. That's, for example, concrete production, some building facilities, and so on. It means which could be used right now. But also, if some companies will consider entering Ukrainian market after we have peace agreement, that will be too late, because that will be a lot of companies, and in the better conditions will be companies which are already operating in Ukraine, or at least did some studies to make this enter very fast, to be faster than other companies. Now we do not have such a big economic cooperation we could have. When you see some statistics between Ukrainian and Romanian foreign trade, that's not very realistic, because in some cases, when we see Romania, it means that just goods enter European Union through Romanian border, and then we do not see what happens to these goods, for example. One of the reasons for such a thing is limited transportation between Ukraine and Romania. In some regions, for example, if you know, Ivano-Frankivsk region has border with Romania, for example, but no single road between Ivano-Frankivsk region and Romania. And in fact, we have major line through Chernivtsi, and also that's pretty limited capacity and higher costs to do it with transport or with the car, freight cars or railway. So if it will become cheaper, for example, if there will be good road, for example, to Constanța, we'll have better cooperation and higher volumes of trade.
From your knowledge, has Ukraine received any, I'd like to say, signals from Bucharest in regards to the reconstruction of Ukraine? We know, for example, Germany and Poland have participated and have talked about this issue and have tried to be proactive about it. In Romania, we don't know really much about this. I don't know if our government has been very proactive about it, but are you looking for any specific signals I'm even talking about beyond grain, because that's probably the biggest area of cooperation between Ukraine and Romania. Even beyond grain, what do you think should be the most important sector? Let's say
The main export goods in Ukraine are grain, namely wheat and corn, and metals. Unfortunately, we have, as I said earlier, problems with the iron and steel industry, so grain will remain number one. And probably not on all grain which comes from Ukraine to Romania goes to Romania or even to European countries. I believe that some may be exported further to African countries. I don't have exact statistics, so that's not a very best sentence for citation, for example. But as to signals, the main signal we want is to keep understanding that Russia is a terrorist country, that trading with Russia is not acceptable for civilized European country, and to support Ukraine's way to European Union. And as for now, we had lowered expectations from European countries. Now, if country do not contradict our entering European Union, that's already our friend country, and that this position is good. And moreover, Romania gives support to Ukrainian refugees, and that's also a big deal, because we want our refugees to come back. But one thing is, if refugees are from Kiev or Lviv or Chernivtsi, and other ways, if they are from occupied regions and they have no place to come back, and we understand that it will be possible only when active hostilities will end, and Ukraine will offer some programs which helps with jobs and housing for those people, and that's not a perspective for 1 year or two.
Are you, regarding this, are you thinking about the integration of these Ukrainian refugees in Romania and other places where they have gone, or are you talking about something else?
Ukraine wants all our refugees back, but all surveys show that every year the number of Ukrainians abroad wanting to go back is lower and lower. Last survey was held in November 24, and it showed that 42% say that they are planning to come back somehow, and we understand that that's a maximum figure. It means if we have 42% saying they want to come back, it means that 20 to 30% will really come back. And that was in November 24, and every next month this figure will be lower and lower. And if war ends now, I believe that 15 to 25% will go back, and this figure will be even lower if war continues.
If the war ended, let's say during the Trump presidency, which is ending 2028, the end of 2028, what do you think Ukraine's economy could realistically look like 5 to 10 years from now on, irrespective of what peace may come from the negotiations with Russia? Yeah.
Well, talking about 2028, Russia has no resources to hold the war until 2028, and Ukraine has no resources to hold the war to 2028. So I don't believe it's possible in such an active phase. It may be possible on some frozen option, like it was in 2016 to 2021. We had tensions on front line, but also we had weeks without any victims in Ukraine. Now, unfortunately, we have at least dozens of victims every week, and in some weeks hundreds of victims. So it's not acceptable for both sides, and Ukraine is interested that for Russia it will become more unacceptable. So the best possible scenario is to make Russia to lose their oil and gas revenues to stop it, because Russia can pay big money for people going to war, and Ukraine do not have such option, because Ukraine do not have money. because in fact we have two separate budgets. One of these is 57% of total spendings, and it's for military needs, and only 43% of spendings are for any other needs, and all without military is covered by our international partners. So all Ukraine gains is going to support the contradiction to Russian aggression. So I don't believe it will go until 2028. However, both economies are exhausted. By the way, air alert again in Kiev. So both economies are exhausted, but if we talk about sanctions against Russia, let me just remind that Russia's economy is growing faster than European economy last years. So if we want to somehow estimate if sanctions are useful or they are weak, Russia's economy is growing faster than the European one, and Ukrainian economy is slowing. In fact, we have a declined population given this information, we understand that Ukrainian GDP per capita is record high. However, our nominal GDP is adding some decimals, and this year could not exceed like 2 or 3% GDP growth. So that's not a figure which could help Ukraine to survive for a long time. And also, we have a limited human capital, so Ukrainian population is currently estimated, not known, but estimated at about 30 million people. That's the minimal number since 1950s. So this economical and demographical and financial reasons unfortunately makes Ukraine to end war faster, and our heroes on the front line are doing their best job, in fact, to help Ukraine to win some additional weeks in this negotiation process.
Let's move on to the final topic of this interview, and that is the EU integration of Ukraine. What are the most difficult reforms still needed for integration from an economic standpoint? And do you believe EU integration, especially if we're talking about joining the single market, is it possible while Ukraine is still fighting this war, or are you thinking the process should be completed after ending the war?
We have a Project Ukraine facility under which Ukraine gets 50 billion of euro during next years. In this way, there are listed all reforms Ukraine need to do in next several years, and on the beginning of this program, Ukraine was doing very well, completing all needed reforms, but now we have some problems in realizing some reforms, and there is a clear timeline, and we understand when we are on time and where we are delaying some problems. When talking about single market, that's not a question of next few years, because we do not expect to see Ukraine in the EU in next year or in 2 years. The most optimistic scenario I ever heard is 2030. And in fact, we cannot expect something full membership before 2032, 2034. So when we talk about common market, even before this period, but not a long time before, but 1 or 2 years before full membership, that's also very long perspective, and we will have a lot of work to do. The main thing is to end the war, because we understand that while hostilities are ongoing, Ukraine will not be a desirable part of European Union. The other point is that one of the main what was Europe afraid of taking Ukrainian membership is Ukrainian workforce flowing to European Union. But in fact, all our skilled workforce are already in the European Union, millions of people. That's most of people who wanted to move moved. Yes, we have some restrictions to cross the border, especially for men aged 25 to 60. However, if as the practice shows, if somehow really wants to exit the country, they somehow do it in very different ways, illegally or making it legal, and so on. So there will be no shock after Ukrainian workforce. And if to talk about Ukrainian goods, Ukraine is not very competitive in a large number of goods. Ukraine is number one world exporter of sunflower oil. Now it's disputed by Russia, who just captured some sunflower oil production facilities, but Ukraine still remains number one. Ukraine is a big grain and corn exporter, and steel, as we said, iron exporter, and namely iron ore exporter, because we have a lack of steel facilities. Some of these questions are very important to European Union, especially when we're talking about agro industry. Some countries want to protect their farmers, but in fact, Ukrainian agrarian industry is pretty digitalized and it's pretty large scaled. So we understand the basics of economy, why a large agricultural company is more effective than a company operating on 10 hectares, for example. And in Ukraine, we have a lot of big companies, so they're effective, and they could give lower prices. And maybe the answer to that is not blocking Ukrainian goods, Ukrainian grain, but to reform agro industries in some European countries to make their own agri companies more effective. But that's in some companies, for example, in Poland, it's a very important social company when we have over 1 million farmers which do not want to cooperate and make bigger companies, and that's very sensitive political questions, not only economic. Everyone understands what is more feasible economically, but that's not feasible as far as if you need to win elections after these decisions.
Are you expecting any kind of other opposition other than Slovakia and Hungary, who are already, and we know they have elections, and maybe the governments will change and maybe their stance will change? Are you expecting any other political opposition to your?
We also have Polish opposition, which in fact turned to the table when I'm in Forbes, when I did the rating of Ukrainian friends in 2022. Poland was number one, held number one position, even before Baltic states. When I get out from Forbes and other analytics, did another methodology in 2023-2024, Poland held place number two. And after that, we have seen Polish protests, which are not really, I cannot understand this protest, because they were protesting against Ukrainian goods. In the same time, they have similar goods from Russia and Belarus, and without protesting without it. And there is a very clear political background for this protest. And now we have absolutely anti-Ukrainian president, which are pretty populistic. And one of the main points of Ukraine-Poland relations for him is to look under the hardest points of Ukrainian and Polish common history. And I don't think they understand the full size of these hard questions, because they are looking like Polish people were also only a victim of Ukrainian army, but they do not want to see on these periods when Poland were occupying like 40% of modern Ukraine territory. For example, like 300 years ago, we had Polish border here 20 kilometers from Kiev. And all other territory with ethnic Ukrainians were belonging to Poland, and Poland has no intention to deal with this time of history. And this republic was not very democratic, as you understand. However, if the task of new Polish president is the same as Orban's and Fico, is to make pro-Russian activities, so if Ukraine will do counterpart, if Ukraine will, so let's see on another point of history, Polish people were also doing not in the proper way, and so on. That's the goal Russia want to achieve. They want to make us enemies with all Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, and so on. And we understand that in Poland, Ukrainian people are not always feeling safe. Other point with Budapest and Bratislava. If you travel to these cities, if you're Ukrainian, you're feeling pretty good, despite political regimes are against Ukraine. And in Poland, there are a lot of difficulties to be for Ukrainian people only because you're Ukrainian. That's a hard point of history, and this hard point took place also in 20th century, so not too far from now. So some historic belief and some hard points. And when we have pro-Ukrainian Polish government, we understand that we have some of these hard points, and both sides had intention to have some historical response to these hard times. But now it's not. This new Polish president is not ready to make this decision. I believe we can have some pro-Russian steps from Poland in the near future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Landa. This has been very insightful. Thank you for your very good answers.
Thank you, Adrian.